Okay, so today we'll be making a ability wheel or spell wheel or gun wheel or whatever you want to use it for. But this is just specifically about the wheel itself, like how it actually operates. I'm currently in a Universal 2D project, but it works in 3D, and I'm using 6.4, which is the latest version, but this should work in most other versions, because we're just using UI and nothing else really. But anyway, getting into it, first things first, I'm going to go over here in the scene graph, and we're going to create the actual ability wheel. So I'm going to create a canvas, we'll call it wheel UI, and just double click that, right click on it again, and I'm going to create a couple of images. These are going to be our abilities. Just going to drag this up here, going to duplicate it again, just going to make a bunch of them. This isn't really a wheel, sorry, but just pretend it's a nice wheel, we'll clean it up after. But that's actually really bothering me. Okay. It's somewhat of a wheel. Okay, and we're going to create another object to basically hold our wheel activation sort of stuff. So we'll call this thing for now. I'll explain why we'll call it thing later. And I'm going to create a new script. This will be our ability wheel script. So I'm going to call it ability wheel. Right click on that. Okay. Now that we're in Visual Studios, a couple of things. First of all, we need a reference to our actual wheel UI game object. So call this wheel UI, and we need a reference to all our actual abilities, so we need a list of images UI, and also that is the wrong list. We don't want it from NU framework, we actually want it using the generic list, system.collection.generic. That gives us the proper list, there we go. And we'll call this abilities. It's equal to a new list of images. We can delete star. Don't need you. And we're going to create a new function called update wheel. Alright, this is where the fun begins. First of all, we need the direction from the center of our wheel to the mouse position, because that's going to give us the whole thing to tell us what we're actually selecting. So, first things first, we need the mouse position, which will be vector2 mouse pos, and we'll set this to mouse. Oh, we don't have mouse in. If you don't have it already, we're going to call this library using Unity engine.input system. This is where it might diverge depending on what Unity system is. There's a different way to get the mouse position using the old system, but I'm currently using the new Unity input system, so this is the version of it. So mouse.current.position.revalue. Sorry, my mind blanked. Okay, that gets us our mouse position, nice and simple, and then we need a vector2 for our wheel position, which is set to UI.transform position. And to get direction, let's set this equal to mouse position, mouse position minus wheel position. And we can just normalize that, so we get a unit vector, just a vector with a length of 1, so we don't need all the extra length. Now we've got the direction. What do we do with that? Well, we need need to calculate the angle with that direction. So create a new flow, call it angle, nice and simple, and then it's already given us mathf.atan2, and that needs to be swapped around, so x is on the right and y is on the left, because on a circle 0 starts on the right, 0 degrees that is. And this is in radians, but we want it in degrees, so we need to call mathf.rad 2 degrees, which just converts radians to degrees. Great, we got our angle, but there are some things that are going to be messed up just using this. So we need to convert this, because this is currently between -180 and 180 degrees, but those negative numbers don't help us, so we want it between 0 and 360 degrees in the circle. So to do that, it's a nice angle normalization formula. We can set this angle is equal to angle plus 360 modulo 360, which just basically clamps up. And I think the official formula is actually just modulo 360 plus 260 modulo 260, but this works just the same, cleaner. So now we've clamped the angle. We've got another issue, because if we go in now, 0 will, like I said earlier, will be on the right. So 0 will start here, then 90, then 180, then 270 or -90. But we want 0 to be flipped 90 degrees up. So our first ability is at 0 degrees up at the top. And then it goes round a circle nicely. So to shift our wheel 90 degrees up, we're going to do angle is equal to angle modulo 90 modulo 360. Sorry, why did I put modulo? Plus 90. Okay. Just add some comments to be nice. We take 90. And then 360. Now that we've got our angle in a pretty nice position, we need to work out how do we actually turn this angle into an index value, because up here we've got a list of abilities. Let me make this a bit bigger. We've got a list of abilities, each with the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to show the ability, but that doesn't help when we just have an angle showing you're in this angle, you're in this angle bracket. So we need to convert it. How do we do that? Well, we can 360 divided by the angle, because we want to get how big the segment size is. So float segment size is equal to 360 divided by abilities up here, our abilities dot count, which is just how many abilities we have. So say we've got 10 abilities, we're dividing 360 by 10, so 36 degrees, that's how many degrees is in one ability. And this is nice because it scales just as you add abilities, it will automatically detect the size of the segment size. Now that we have the segment size, we can work out the index, which we don't have currently, so we need to create that. No, index is an int, sorry. Index is equal to, and then we need to do mathf.floor to int, and we can do capital. We can do angle divided by segment size. Now that we got that going, with our index, we can say if index is is not equal to, and I don't think we created it, so we'll create a nice little int to store our current index. This can be private. I'll also make these public, or a neat little trick if you want to keep it private, you can just add this little thing above it, next to it, called serialize field, which will just mean expose it in the editor, so you can see it as if it's public, but it's private still. And we just want to set current index. And it's given it to us, so current index is equal to index, that's nice. But this is where the magic happens. Now this is just going to be like basically like a debug sort of thing, but I'll show you how you can change it a bit after. So for now, I'm going to do for each image I in abilities, I dot color is equal to color dot white. So basically setting everything to the color white, all our images, before setting the actual ability we're selecting to red. So to do that, we've got to do abilities index, abilities at index dot color is equal to color dot, so offset what we want, red. Now this should be everything. We actually need to call the function, don't forget to do that. And we're updating our wheel in update. So if we go back into Unity, let it compile. Now, ooh, we got some errors. Oh, that's nothing. Okay, so in our thing, let's drag in our ability wheel. Let's drag in the reference to our wheel UI. Also, this is what I meant by serialized field. You can now see the abilities here. We'll clamp that so it doesn't change when we're selecting these abilities. Shift, click to select all of them, drag them into abilities. Now we've got our 7 abilities in this order. So clockwise order, make sure it's in the order you want, but it should be nice to see anyway. So that should be everything if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going to click to play, see what we've got so far. It should not, oh, that is because it's flipped in the wrong direction, so we need to actually flip it. So after we've clamped it, we should angle is equal to, oh yes, 360 minus angle. Now this should flip. There's a little comment to be flip angle. Now when we go back into Unity, fingers crossed it's being good to us. Oh, it's working. It's working. So now it selects the ability based on mouse position. So how does this actually turn into a like an ability wheel? So what we've got now is a nice ability which selects the ability and changes its color to red. But obviously you'll have a script, maybe like a ability component. No, I'll why not? No, that might take too long. But basically, instead of an image here, you might have a reference to an maybe like a game object which has like an ability on it, maybe like fireball, and then you would have a reference to your player abilities component, and then here, instead of setting the color, you would do like ability component dot current ability, so the current selected ability, you set it equal to this, abilities index. now that ability is selected, and because you've stored like a game object with abilities here, you'd be able to call it. It really depends on what game you've got, but this is just the selection of it. So you can do whatever here with your wheel, or say you've got a gun wheel, you can just set current gun equal to this, and then you'd have your script to like equip the gun and things like that. But yeah, this is just the bare bones version. I hope this helped. Let me know if you came across any issues. I'm quite active on it, so I'll respond, and you know, hope it helped.